Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day, regardless of how awesome Bitcoin is performing. We're going to take a look at Mana, Decentraland, and just before we do, quick peek at Bitcoin, just so you kind of know what's going on here, because I think it's important to understand big picture. There's potential for the price to come down between 56 and 58,000. Already there. I put this up to my community earlier today before we actually got into that zone, but we're still kind of trending right around 58,000. So there is a strong likelihood that we could see the price continue down. If it does, 52 to 54,000 will be the next available, zone, so to speak. Obviously, it could reside somewhere in between, but these are the two buy zones I recommend to my members. And just generally speaking, we're not in great shape with Bitcoin here, still losing momentum, or effectively has that downward momentum still. Granted, the last 4-hour candlestick is a little bit abbreviated here. We have a large wick showing that there's there's an attempt to reverse the price back up, but simply put, we still have this death cross that's coming to fruition here. So until that comes into play, I don't think we need to, consider doing much at all. Personally, with the other altcoins, obviously Mana is a different story. We're going to look at that here in a moment, but all in all, for the most part, most most altcoins are suffering right now because Bitcoin's doing so as well. So just bear that in mind. I don't think it's quite done, retracing, but we'll see here soon. I'll keep a close eye on it, and we'll obviously understand what that looks like. So that is kind of where we're at there for Bitcoin. Take a quick look at Mana, and just before we do, if you are new to the channel, just want to let you know this is for educational purposes, not necessarily even as a disclaimer, but more so just fact of the matter. I love teaching and I love helping educate other people and becoming better traders. That's why I have a trading community. Check that out, link in the description below, where I send out signals for every single trade that I take and help you understand what it takes to become a better trader. A lot of awesome scenarios there. Great, amazing people too. I tell you what, fantastic community. I couldn't be happier with them. So proud. So look at the 1-day chart here. We can obviously see we got a pretty significant increase, right? So today, from bottom to top, we're at this, plus or minus 20%, right? So it has traveled a lot in the course of 24 hours. Now that's pretty standard for Mana, but just bear in mind too, it is susceptible to sell-offs from Bitcoin, right? So that's where we have found our recent low here, right around November 10th. Obviously, we had a pretty large candlestick and candle wick pattern there. And then, of course, ramps up. There's a Bitcoin sell-off here, and now it's ramping up again. But the key takeaway here is that Mana is susceptible to Bitcoin sell-offs, but it also bounces back quite nicely, right? So for lack of better terms, it does extremely well in the face of danger, right? So it's a cool coin in that sense, right? Also, furthermore, we're back up over 70 on the R side. That's a great sign. That basically means we passed that resistance level, for lack of better terms. But more importantly, the 1-day candlestick closed above this key resistance at 345. I mentioned this in yesterday's video, that 345 was a strong resistance level. It's been tested about 5 or 6 times. Now it finally broke. Bear in mind, the 1-day candlestick hasn't officially closed yet. But also bear in mind, Bitcoin sold off heavily and Mana was able to recover and come up above that. So that's an extremely good sign. That tells us we have some really good long-term potential, just based on the sheer fact that it's doing really well contrary to Bitcoin. So taking a look at the 4-hour chart, we can see we're between 50 and 70 on the R side. That's fantastic. I love that. More room for growth. We had a recent MACD convergence yesterday about 5 p.m. Pacific. So as soon as that candlestick closed, we saw that form there. So we'll just mark that really quick. And also note too, the 50-day simple moving average is still effectively working as a support level. Obviously, it was previously, wasn't officially tested recently, but as you can see, the price came down, and it didn't necessarily bounce, but it didn't need to. That's the great thing about this here. So I love this pattern here. I love the way this is forming. It's still making higher highs and higher lows in the 4-hour chart, contrary again to the situation at hand, right? So what we should likely see is a continuation of the upside at this point. And what we're hoping for is, of course, the price to kind of break this resistance level of about 380. Now, it broke it a moment ago, right? Roughly 8 hours ago, it broke that plane, but it didn't officially close above that plane yet on the 1-day candlestick. So it's still kind of sort of considered a resistance level, right? Just bear that in mind. But what that does, that just kind of reiterates the fact that we have a resistance channel now instead of just a resistance level. So this little zone is essentially where the price could end up hanging out or having some trouble passing, but once it does, it'll confirm itself as a very strong support level. So be excited to see that happen. So take a look at the 1-hour chart. Quickly note on the Ishimoku cloud. We're above the cloud. The lagging span is continuing on over, and of course the lead is dropping. So for lack of better terms here, when we see something like this, we want to be able to, well, I think the bottom line here, and really regardless of this here, this is all good, right? This basically tells us that we're still in good shape. We don't need to sell. So to make it really simple here, let me just go ahead and make it easy so you can kind of see this. we're above the cloud and it's going to work as a potential support level here soon if the price were to continue to go sideways and not really go any higher, right? Now, we can look at TD sequential, kind of see what that timeline might look like, but generally speaking here at this point, we can see we're reaching somewhat of a consolidation phase. Yes, it's ramping back up from that lower case, but I think it might still need a little bit more time to recover before it can break this resistance plane. So to me, I think we're going to see a little bit more time in the channel 345 to 380 for the next maybe day or two, and then hopefully it can continue to consolidate closer to this resistance level and then break to the upside essentially with a pattern that looks sort of like that, right? That's a very good continuation. It looks like we're in good shape to see that happen. Again, higher highs, higher lows in the 4-hour charts. We got this ascending, tentatively ascending wedge pattern, right? And of course, we're above the cloud. So there's really all good signs here. There's nothing that I see here that's bearish for mana. And the fact of the matter is, yes, it sold off, but it recovered very well and very quick. Granted, Bitcoin did recover too. But if you see the scale on Bitcoin versus this, let's take a look at the 1-hour chart on Bitcoin. That's a tremendously different story than what mana is telling us, right? It's still moving up, still making higher highs and higher lows, where Bitcoin is struggling to even make a lower high right now, right? So there's a good comparison, good contrast there. And that really just helps us understand kind of that we're right on the right track here with mana. So again, all good things. So let's go ahead and look at the best case scenario here, because this is based on the more recent time frames. In other words, when the price came to its lowest, most recent point on the 10th, I drew the Fibonacci retracement up to the more recent high, right? So that being said, including that recent increase, we're looking at about 582 as a strong potential for the price in which mana could increase to, which is about a 62% increase from where it's at presently. And that could very well happen over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Now, I can say 1 week based on the fact that, Sand, Mana, Engine, there's a handful of coins that they're just really taken off based on the sheer fact that Bitcoin just sold off heavily, right? So a lot of that volume from Bitcoin, or people are selling their volume from Bitcoin, is coming into coins like this, right? So the cool thing about this situation is that these are proving to be very strong and very resilient to Bitcoin sell-offs. So that's a really good sign for big picture. So I would say if you're going to go along on anything for a nice solid swing / hodl trade, we're going to be looking at Mana, Sand, and Engine as the 3 strong contenders for that. I think they can both likely 1.5 to 2x before the year is over. That's pretty safe to say, even from where they're at right now and how high they've gotten from before. So if you've jumped into Mana a long time ago or before this major increase recently, kudos to you. I recommend continuing to add to your position. Don't sell anything at all and just let it keep building up, right? I don't recommend that very often, but when I do, I can tell you that it's definitely something that's worth considering. And to me, that's kind of my thought process here. I'm pretty sure as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to send out a signal to my community here, letting them know that Mana is here to play, right? It's here to stay, and I think we're in good shape. So all in all, that's exactly what we're looking at. So I hope you did find benefit here today, of course, and feel free to comment below if you hadn't, whatever the case is. Regardless, I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you have a fantastic, more amazing day here, and we'll look forward to seeing the next one. Take care. Thanks for your time.